The Rainbow Tower. Written by Alex Tymms. Illustrated by R H Stewart. Episode 8. Blue. "Run!" Trevor shouted at Jed. "Not without you!" Jed yelled back as powdered concrete billowed round them. "Go!" Trevor's face was set with angry determination. "No!" "Then we'll both die here!" As Trevor was shouting, mass tendrils licked their way through the dust cloud. But there was also a cracking and rumbling Jed recognised from his time in the manhole. "Come on!" he shouted, grabbing Trevor again. "The concrete's breaking! Move!" They staggered up the stairs as the tendrils flicked nearer. At the same time, the rumble grew to an ear-splitting shatter. "Hang on!" Jed yelled above the roar, and they both grasped the metal handrail for all they were worth. Beneath their feet, the stairs shook violently. Trevor slipped, but Jed grabbed both him and the handrail as chunks of concrete broke off the rough wall behind them. With a deafening crash, the whole wall outside the landing door collapsed, and the tendrils disappeared under a pile of jagged blocks. Jed stared around him, expecting the stairwell wall to collapse any minute, just like the rough concrete had. But the smooth surface beside him, while cracked, didn't move again. As the dust settled, Jed helped Trevor to his feet. Where the landing doorway had once been was buried in a huge pile of rubble. The mass couldn't reach them. But it also meant they only had one choice as to where to go. "Why didn't the whole stairwell collapse?" Jed asked. "Because the stairs were built properly," Trevor replied. "Through the cracks you'll see steel rods and mesh, just like the floor we had to climb through." Jed could just make out the lattice work of steel mesh as he peered through where it was damaged. "Now look at the rough stuff." Jed did so. There was no metal to be seen. "Not only that, the idiots padded it out with rubbish. Look at that. No wonder it collapsed." Trevor was pointing at the pieces of paper and card sticking out from within the rubble. "Shoddy," he muttered as he moved off. "Just shoddy." Jed stared. Why wouldn't they do it properly? It didn't make sense. "Well, come on then," Trevor called back after him, "before that thing comes back." Jed shook his head and followed. Trevor was back to his old self. Jed pushed down hard on each thigh with his hands every time he took a step, trying to give himself the extra impetus to keep climbing. The stairway was filled with the sound of Trevor's laboured breathing, and Jed could just make out his dark shapes some flights below. He stopped to catch his breath and waited for Trevor to catch up, just like he'd done countless times so far. As he stood, he went over yet again what Trevor had told him. "Your mother is the chief executive. She wanted to change this place, do away with the colours, have people working together again. It was a bold idea, and one that made her enemies. That's why she had to send you away, so they had no hold over her." Trevor had gone on about her, clearly wanting to create as positive a picture as he could for Jed, but Jed still found resentment battling with his curiosity to know more about her. Then there was his father. Trevor had been very vague about him, despite Jed's persistent questioning. In addition, there was something nagging at him, something he was sure Trevor had glossed over. As he waited for the big man to reach him, he wondered if he had been better not knowing anything about his parents. It had been so much easier. Trevor puffed into view. "Trevor," Jed began. The big man looked up from his bent-over position, his hand on the rail for support. "If she," said Jed. He still couldn't bring himself to refer to her as mother or mum. "If she trusted you enough to send me with you all those years ago, why did she sign that order to have you sacked?" Trevor looked away, his breathing gradually slowing. I don't know," he replied quietly. Suddenly, Trevor sagged again. The old confidence evaporated in front of Jed's eyes. It was clear he really didn't know. It may have been an administrative error. Trevor stopped mid-sentence to look down at his hand grasping the rail. It was shaking. Then the unmistakable smell reached them. They set off without a word, feeling the stair treads vibrate under their feet. As the smell grew, so did the vibrations, until the stairs were shaking so much they both had to cling onto the handrail to stop themselves from falling. "Look," Trevor puffed, glancing upwards. "A landing!" Jed looked up to see a larger section of lattice work. They hurried on. Maybe there would be a way out. Jed reached the landing first, only to stop in disappointment. Where there should have been a door, there was a wall of the same rough concrete as before. "What?" Trevor gasped as he staggered onto the landing. He'd made a big effort to get there. "Again?" The stairs were shaking violently by now. "Come on," Jed said, heading up again. Trevor shook his head. "I'm spent. I'll drag you if I have to." Okay, I'm coming." They struggled on. The stairs were not only shaking, but beginning to twist under them, first one way, then the other. It was as if the mass far below was playing with them, trying to shake them so they'd fall and spare it the effort of reaching up for them. Jed climbed, his face down so he didn't miss his footing on the tortured metal. "Oh no!" He stopped and looked back. It was Trevor, gazing up past him to something ahead. Jed turned and groaned. Not far above, the stairs ended, not with a landing or a door, but with the base of another slab of rough concrete. It had clearly been poured straight across the existing stairs, for one of the treads was half in and half out of the material. "We're trapped," Trevor wheezed. Suddenly, Jed and Trevor found themselves twisting 90 degrees as the stairs were torn from the walls. They clung on with both hands as the metal shrieked and groaned. A rain of debris began to shower them as the stairs deformed under them. Jed cursed as a fist-sized lump of concrete hit him on the shoulder and very nearly made him lose his grip. He looked up. The stairs weren't just twisting below the slab, they were twisting through it. "Up!" Jed called to Trevor. "Climb!" They groped their way up the disintegrating stairway as the lights flickered on and off. Fractures and rents were appearing just above their heads as the rough concrete was ripped apart. Jed turned and pulled Trevor after him. Together they shoved chunks of stonework away as they tried to keep climbing, now pushing into the concrete as the stairs tore it apart like an enormous drill, turning first one way, then the other. Jed squeezed between broken parts of the slab and, to his amazement, found huge pockets stuffed with more paper and cardboard. As the slab broke up, this padding disintegrated and fell harmlessly around them. Without these pockets, the concrete wouldn't have cracked so easily, and he and Trevor would have been pelted with chunks of stone rather than showered in shredded paper. Jed tried to force a way through big enough for Trevor to follow. As he did so, one of the broken sections fell, narrowly missing Trevor just below him. "Sorry!" Jed yelled, as not far below there was a crash of rage. Jed pushed himself on and, to his surprise, suddenly found himself emerging from the slab. It could only have been 2 or 3 meters thick. He hauled Trevor up after him and found the big man pointing, too out of breath to speak. They were in a long, deserted room, the ruined stairs rising still higher beyond the ceiling, and at the far end was a single door. Jed and Trevor stumbled towards the way out, terrified that at any moment the floor would give way, sending them falling straight to the mass. Instead, they collapsed through the door and fell face down at the foot of a huge glass panel. Jed looked up to see everything was bathed in a dark, watery light. "Blue!" Trevor gasped. "We're in blue!" Jed hurried to help him up, and they began to stagger along the smooth, plastic-floored corridor past more panels. Jed gritted his teeth as he supported Trevor, They were going to make it. They were going to escape. Then he fell, tripping over something on the floor. What Jed couldn't understand was why Trevor continued moving forward, pulling away from him. Then he realised it wasn't Trevor who was moving, but him. He twisted onto his back and felt something tighten round his ankle, grimacing as the grip became vice-like. In horror, he looked down to see that a mucus-covered tendril had snared him. He was being dragged right back to where he'd come from. He stared, wide-eyed. Through the doorway, the stairs and room had gone. All that now filled the void was the stinking mass. Thank you very much for listening to The Rainbow Tower. To see more of R H Stewart's excellent artwork, you'll find him on Instagram at roy.hootson.stewart. For Alex Tymms, why not try the novel OutCaste at ao3.com? Or, for something completely different, check out the Amier series on YouTube or at amier.com, also by Alex Tymms.